Well, welcome everyone. I'm so happy to see people are able to join us this evening. Welcome to Introduction to Business, Key Considerations for Choosing a Banking Relationship. So if you're joining us live today, thank you so much for being here. And also thank you for those of you who are watching the recording. We do record all of our webinars and post them to the YouTube channel. So if you're not able to be with us live in person, hopefully you are able to access the videos after we've been able to post them. So my name is Joanna Mummert, and I have been a financial coach for the past 20 years. Actually, it's probably going north of that number. I began supporting small businesses and small business entrepreneurs in 2015 as an instructor for the English and Spanish business courses offered through Ventures. And Ventures is a Seattle-based nonprofit that empowers aspiring entrepreneurs with limited resources but unlimited potential. And we provide access to business training, capital, coaching, and hands-on learning opportunities for entrepreneurs. And specifically over the last couple of years, I've been providing additional support to Seattle area business owners recovering from the impact of the pandemic. And so we're excited to partner with BECU in this training opportunity. And BECU is focused on helping their business members succeed financially in all aspects of the business journey. Part of that success is offering education and information that businesses need to make crucial business decisions. And through partnering with Ventures, we can provide content and education to their members and to prospective members. So together with Ventures, BECU hopes to reach far into the communities that they serve to provide free and relevant information to every business and to every person with a dream of business ownership. So BECU and Ventures really is people helping people. So I'm excited to be part of this, this opportunity. All right. Let's see here if I'm going to have issues advancing. Here we go. So this evening, we're tackling a topic of what is the difference between a credit union and a bank? Which is better, a bank or a credit union? That's a question I've seen come up time and time again, and maybe that's what is inspiring to you and why you've decided to join this evening, is to get answers to that question. And so we're going to be covering throughout this presentation the general differences between banks and credit unions. We're going to be covering what's the difference between a customer versus a member. Is one better than the other? What are some of the personal and business products that you can find at those institutions? How are fees and interest rates different? How safe is my money? What's the deposit insurance that I can take advantage of? I've also included a business account opening checklist, and we're going to look at some of the financial services partnerships that are available to you, and then also wrap up with all the different ways that you can use your member benefits. I will be saving time at the end to go over questions. If you have any questions, you can jot it down in the meantime or post it in the chat. And then when I have a break, or if I don't have a break, I can do it at the end to make sure that all of your questions are answered. So here's my disclaimer slide. I always have to go over this. The content provided in this webinar is for informational purposes only. Please consult a bank or a credit union representative for benefits, product lists, current rates, and terms and conditions. And that's really important because, especially in the banking, the banking industry, especially with interest rates, numbers change often. So to get the most current information, you want to make sure you go straight to the source. Okay, so looking at banks and credit unions. This is a list of some of the things that you will see that are the different aspects of each. And we're going to explore each of these individually. So we're going to take a deeper dive at for-profit versus nonprofit, because there's a little bit more to that. But before I get into that, we're going to see that there's a lot of similarities between banks and credit unions. So we're going to take a deeper look at that to see what exactly we can consider when we're looking at the two. One of the things that is really interesting when it comes to how banking was done in the past and where we're at in today's world is just the history of banking and kind of how we used to do business versus how we do business now. So we're going to look at the different things that are listed here. Reputation and history is so important when we're looking at where to do business. Reputation is a big one. So we're going to cover in future slides, customer versus member, some of the products offered, and then service fees and interest rates. But I wanted to kind of take a look at this idea of reputation and history first. So I know a lot of families in the past would do business with the banks that their parents did banking with, right? It was kind of the history of the banking relationship was passed down through generations in many cases. But there's also so many people and families that are moving into Washington State, or people move because of job opportunities. And so when people arrive to a new place, they often look to see, I'm going to establish a life here, or I'm going to open a business here. What kind of bank or credit union should I choose to do business with? And maybe you personally had a good loan application experience and chose to work with an institution that has a reputation for excellent customer service, for example. Or perhaps you value an institution that has a good reputation for handling identity theft and fraud. So when it comes to reputation and history, different things are important to different people. So it's interesting to know the story behind the organization that you choose to work with. The other piece is local presence versus like a national presence. So down the bottom, because we are going to cover fees and interest rates in a future slide. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on with branch and ATM locations is this idea of the changing banking atmosphere. And back in the old days, people would do business with the one bank that was in their neighborhood because it was convenient. And in the late 20th century and 21st century, we saw what? The rise of the internet. And so with the advent of online banking, it brought about a new convenience, a banking convenience to a whole new level, so that you could start working or transacting banking business online. You didn't necessarily have to go into a local branch or a local financial center to be able to do that. And then in the last 10 years or so, banking has really evolved so we can conduct conduct transactions from our smartphones. So we're no longer limited to just using the institution that's close by, but we now have the option of using the local ATMs or the neighborhood financial centers, your computer, or the app on your smartphone. So convenience now means different things for different people. So the branch locations and ATM locations, again, may be something that's important to you, or maybe it's not so important because you are conducting a lot of your banking online. The big difference that I want to start with, and this is one of those things where we're talking about a difference, is the idea of being for-profit or not-for-profit. So for-profit is typically going to be that term that we're talking about when we're referring to some of those bigger banks. Banks can be privately owned or they can be publicly traded. Well, what does that mean? Who's the owner if they're publicly traded or privately owned? Well, the owners are the shareholders. And so the shareholders are the ones that will profit from the success of that bank. Not for profit credit unions are owned by their members. So the members are the ones that are receiving the benefits from a successful institution. So what the key difference really comes down to ownership. So for commercial banks, ownership boils down to shareholders. And the big publicly held banks that we've all heard of, their shares are bought and sold on the stock market. So I'm sure you can think of a big bank that you've heard of, that you see ads for. Those banks are basically sharing their earnings with their shareholders. So to generate shareholder returns, at the end of the year, a bank pays some or all of its profits to its shareholders in the form of dividends. But credit unions, being not for profit, they will return profits to members, and their members are their owners. So they're the ones with the ownership. And usually what that would result in, typically, is that the members receive, or the credit union is able to offer, typically better interest rates, better earning rates, and that means also with lower fees, which we'll talk about after a little bit. Customer versus member. So you've already heard the term member. So a customer is a customer at the bank. Anybody can be a customer. There's no limitations typically on who can have an account at one of these local banks. But with a credit union, there are going to be certain limitations to who can qualify. And so with qualifications for a credit union, some credit unions are just for teachers, for example, or others are primarily for military members and their families. Some credit unions are specific to different industries, or some are specific to even just a specific county. The list is pretty endless in terms of who they're formed for, who they're serving. And in fact, BECU started out solely for the employees of the Boeing company. And full disclosure, I have only done banking with BECU for my entire life because my father worked for the Boeing company. So that's my full disclosure. I have been a lifelong member of BECU. But one of the nice things that's changed over the years is the fact that anyone who is living, working, worships, or goes to school in Washington State can now qualify for membership at BECU. So they have really opened up their qualifications to be able to serve more and more people in our community. Some of the different personal and business products that you'll find at a bank or a credit union are listed here on the screen. So you're going to see savings accounts and checking accounts, different types of lines of credit, and different loan products are going to be available at either institution. Business loans can be anything from real estate loans and auto loans to to SBA loans and beyond. Banks often will issue, and credit unions will also issue credit cards, and many will also provide some sort of access to payroll and merchant services. So take a moment and think about which types of accounts you have or which products you use. So think about that for a second. Do you have all of your accounts in one place? And then why or why not? How easy is it to transfer between accounts? Do you use the bill pay service? Or what about overdraft protection? These are all things that kind of, if you sit and think about, you can start to realize, oh, this is what I use, or this would be nice to have access to. From a personal experience, one thing I like knowing is that, hey, I'll never be late on a payment because the payment is leaving a checking account to pay a loan at the same institution, right? There's an ease of transfer that way. And I can easily check the status of that payment at any time. So just to think about kind of which of these services you use and what might be something that you would want to take a look at. On this slide, you can see that these are some of the fees that you would typically see associated with banking at a bank or a credit union. So let's take a look at this. On the top are some fees that you might see. This is a sample. Some banks would charge something called a monthly business account fee. So it's just basically that monthly fee to have the account open and serviced. And in my research, I've seen between $10 and $25 per month. There's also an outside ATM fee, seems to be something that's typical you might see on an account for using an outside ATM. What that means, outside ATM, is if it's not of the same bank. So if you bank at one institution and then you use a different bank or credit union or any other machine, there's a surcharge for using that outside machine of between $2.50 to $5 per transaction. The other item that's listed here is the foreign transaction fee. And this is also a typical sample of what you might see for a foreign transaction fee. And the foreign transaction fee is essentially the cost that the bank charges you to convert whatever dollar the country's dollar, the currency that the dollar is for the US, but the currency of the country that you're visiting to the US dollar. And could be that you're using an Australian dollar that you have to convert to US dollar. So 3% is usually the percentage charged on the entire amount to be able to switch currencies and to do that exchange. One of the things that's interesting about that as well is that's typically, from what I've seen, charged on top of the exchange rate. So you might be traveling and you're going to be using whatever exchange rate the bank uses for that transaction plus a foreign transaction fee. So it can make an impact if you're not aware of it, but just it's something typical and it's something to pay attention to. Just know that this is something that you might have to pay. On the other side, credit unions, in the fact that they're able to provide lower fees to their members, oftentimes you'll see that they will have 0 to low monthly minimum requirements on their balances. So, or on the accounts, meaning that you would have a low balance that you have to maintain on a monthly balance or monthly basis before being charged any types of fees. There could also be something called a monthly maintenance fee. That would be something, would be a fee charged for having the account open. Again, the foreign transaction fee might be something that you would see, and an ATM surcharge. So those are all typically the same types of fees that you would see at banks. But I think that the thing to note here is that typically they tend to be lower than the banks. So it is a benefit of doing business with a credit union, and that's why you'll see that it's 0 to low. Small business loan fees. Most people that own a business have probably taken out a loan at one time or another. And if you haven't yet, it's one of those things you will probably take advantage of and have to do at some point in the future. So it's always helpful to know what types of fees are involved with applying for a loan. And I do want to note that one of our future webinars will be to discuss loan preparedness. So be on the lookout for that invitation. If that's something that's of interest to you. But these are some fees that you might see affiliated with a loan application and receiving a loan. So loans and lines of credit may include an application fee, and this would be from both banks and credit unions. So just be on the lookout for each of these so you know what's involved. The application fee would be the amount that you have to submit with the application that goes to the institution for processing. So just for processing the application, there may be a fee attached to that. And that would be due regardless of whether or not you actually receive approval for your loan. A loan origination fee, on the other hand, is the fee that you would be paying to fund the loan. So sometimes that is going to appear in the form of a percentage of the overall loan amount. And that can be part of the closing costs for a loan that you might be taking out. If you can avoid making late payments, then you won't be stuck with a late payment fee. But every once in a while, some of us might run into an issue where the payment is late or you miss the grace period. And so you might have a late payment fee attached to your account. So take a look and see ahead of time what that payment is going to look like, so you're aware of that. And then also, the last one is a prepayment fee. So a prepayment fee, if you don't know what that is, I like to use the example of like a 5-year loan, for example, or as one example. If you take out a 5-year business loan and you're making your monthly payments as planned, and suddenly you've got a bunch of money and you're ready to pay off that loan because you don't want to go through the whole schedule, the whole loan term, and you decide to pay it off. Well, some loans will attach a prepayment fee for paying the loan off early. So you want to know ahead of time, again, if that's going to be something that you're going to have to pay, and be aware of that so you can make plans accordingly. So all of the loan fees that are associated with the different loan products, all of those are going to be available to you either online as part of your loan documents. Any of those fees, they may change. So make sure you get in touch with your representative to just double check, so you're knowing ahead of time what could be affiliated with different loans that you're looking at. So the fees are the costs associated with certain accounts to do business, but the interest rates are the earnings. What are you going to get for having your money on deposit at a bank or credit union? Well, account earnings usually are going to be in the form of dividends or interest rates. And you could be earning interest on things like savings accounts, checking accounts, CDs, and money markets. And again, the rates are typically going to be high. The earnings rates are typically going to be higher with a credit union and typically lower at a bank. But you can always get current information to see how they compare. The loan interest rates are going to be the reverse. So loan interest rates are going to typically be less at a credit union and typically be a little bit higher, if not quite a bit higher, at a bank. So credit cards pay, or excuse me, the credit cards will have an annual percentage rate that's going to be attached to it. That's going to be the percentage that you're paying on money borrowed on your credit card. And then different business lines of credit and loans are going to either have variable rates or fixed rates. Those are, it's essentially the cost to use the credit union or the bank's money. So just to kind of reiterate, for a current rate schedule, and I think they actually publish it daily if you go into a neighborhood financial center, the information changes because of, well, because of a lot of different factors, but what it comes down to is it is something that fluctuates. So for current information, make sure you reach out to a representative. So we're going to move on to another topic, and I'm just going to check really quick to see that there are some questions going in the chat, and I'm just going to review it really quick. And it looks like the question is a specific question, so I'm not going to cover that right now. I'm just going to cover general information pertaining to the content that we're talking about, but I'll take another look at the end to see if there's a way that we can address that question for you. But so we're going to talk right here about something that is, again, another topic that I get, that I've seen quite a bit. And that question is, how safe is my money? Should I be keeping my money in a bank? Is it safer in a bank, or is it safer in a credit union? What's the best, or what is the best option for keeping my money safe? And the answer to that is, there's actually good news there, because the good news is that the level of protection is the same in both places. So the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC, is probably something that most of us have heard about. And the FDIC covers bank customer deposits, but the other company or the other agency that covers credit unions is the National Credit Union Administration, the NCUA, and they cover credit union member deposits. So I'm going to kind of talk about them both because they both work in pretty much the same way. Both the FDIC and the NCUA are independent federal agencies that provide government-backed insurance for financial institutions. So they're actually backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. They're both going to be there to protect and offer coverage at the same levels. So combined accounts up to $250,000, and I'll give you an example of that in a second. And they cover different deposit accounts like savings, checking, money market, and CDs. So they do not cover investments. Okay, that's one big key to keep in mind, is they don't cover any investments. Anything that could potentially lose money and up and down is not insurable. But coverage is really designed to protect your money in the unlikely event that a bank or a credit union fails. So it's to give that extra level of protection to basically help consumers feel that I can be confident where I put my money, whether it's in a bank or a credit union, because there is their coverage backed by the full faith and credit of the US government. So up to $250,000 coverage is per depositor, per insured bank or credit union, per ownership category, whether it's an individual account or a joint account or a trust account. So just to kind of give you an example of that, and all of this information is very much spelled out on the websites for each of the institutions. But just to give you a couple of examples, a single account is owned by one person with no beneficiaries. So, for example, all of the single accounts at the same bank or credit union, such as one person with no beneficiaries who has a checking account, a savings account, maybe they've got some CDs. All of those accounts with the same ownership gets added together. And if it's under $250,000, the full amount is insured. The other example would be a joint account. So a joint account would be two or more people with no beneficiaries, where each co-owner's share of all of the joint accounts, again, if it's a checking, savings, CD, are added together and insured up to $250,000. Business accounts are also eligible for FDIC and NCUA coverage. And if that wasn't too confusing, or if you have questions about that, I'm sure it's one of those topics where everyone's got a specific scenario. The nice thing is they both have the electronic deposit coverage estimator. And I have played with the tool myself and find it very easy to use. So if you have accounts at a bank, you can visit fdic.gov. Or if you are wanting to look at the accounts that you have at a credit union, you can go to mycreditunion.gov, and there's the deposit coverage estimator there. So you can plug in the types of ownership you have on your account, the different types of accounts you have. It'll calculate your estimated coverage limits, and you can get it in a report and have it all nicely right in front of you. So it's a really helpful tool if you have any questions about what specifically is covered, because it can get kind of confusing, especially if you've got more complicated scenarios with different ownership structures. Hey, here is our handy checklist for opening a business account at BECU. And you'll see on here that there's just a few things listed on this page, but I've got a couple of pages to share with you. And the first one is the membership application. And the application is available online or at any BECU location. So there's that you'll have to fill out. And one of the things I want to mention here is, if you prefer to be doing this, doing everything online, or if you like to fill out a paper application, you can certainly do that. If you go into the neighborhood financial center, you can always get help. So don't hesitate if you're a do-it-yourselfer, that's great. But if you are at all hesitating or have any questions, you can always get assistance in person, or even just by calling the member line to get assistance with how to complete the application if you need assistance. You'll also need your business taxpayer identification number. So if you are doing business as a sole proprietor and you use your social security number, you can use that. Or if you have an EIN, if you're doing business using your business tax ID number. Actually, I should mention this too, that if you did not listen to the last recording of our key considerations for business formation, I highly recommend that class, because we do get into all of these different pieces to forming a business that are helpful to understand. But I just want to give you a little bit of background just in case you are wondering what any of these things are. The EIN is a specific number that is unique to your business, that is going to help you be identified at the federal level. So it's an IRS number it's a number issued by the IRS to allow your business to be recognized as a taxpayer. The Unified Business Identifier Number, or UBI, that number is a state identification number. So that is going to be unique to the state of Washington, that allows you to do business with the state of Washington, and you'll use that to file your taxes or pay for your business taxes at the state level, at the Department of Revenue. And then the last item on here, the NAICS code. The NAICS code is a code that you can find on your Schedule C of your federal tax return. If you had somebody else do it for you, it should be on there. If you did it yourself, you probably looked it up and maybe didn't realize it. But it's a code that classifies the type of business that you have. So it's essentially narrowing down industry and type of business that you have. And so you'll need to include that as well. As a sole proprietor, you would need to bring in your personal identification. So that could be your current driver's license or a state issued ID card with your business taxpayer ID number. If you are a partnership or doing business as an LLC or a corporation, you can very easily also open up an account. The only difference here is that each business owner with 25% or more ownership would need to come in or present their driver's license or state issued ID number or ID card, along with business taxpayer ID information, and also on behalf of the business, complete a certification of beneficial ownership. So that form is also available online or at any BECU location. So if you have any questions about any of these forms, really, I just want to reiterate again how easy it is to be able to go in and get assistance at the neighborhood financial centers if you need help with it, completing any piece of this. Okay, well, depending on the type of business you have, you're more than likely using some type of merchant service provider for collecting payment. And there's more and more merchant service providers that are coming out all the time. Some systems are designed around e-commerce. Some are really great for restaurants or beauty salons. Some systems cater to the needs of specific types of businesses and specific needs of businesses, like if you need for, like booking appointments. Some of these programs will allow for booking appointments and collecting tips and different things like that. But when considering the different options available to you, these 3 items on the screen are the top 3 items that have kind of influenced decisions in terms of which program to go with. So credit card terminals, mobile card readers, POS systems are important factors to the different merchant services and maybe how you're going to decide which one to use. And think about how and where you collect payments. So do you do a lot of credit card transactions as it is? Do you prefer cash? And then think about too, how would your sales increase if you were able to have a convenient way to accept and track credit card payments? So these are some things, if you're not already using merchant services, those are some things that you might consider to enhance your business. And when you're evaluating the different providers and the different services, I think it's really helpful to have conversations with other business owners. So whether it's other businesses that have a similar type of business to what you have, or just other businesses in general, ask them what they like about the system that they're using or what they don't like about it. So when I've been speaking with different business owners, these are these are a list of things that has been important to them. So payment security is a big one. Payment expandability, payment integration, contracts, support, fees. What do these things mean to you? And one of the things that you might want to think about too when you're looking at some of these different companies that are available, is that basically, how high are their chargeback fees? Maybe that's something that you need to look at. How do their fees compare to other service providers? Or what circumstances might cause your account to be suspended? And how long does it typically last? How long does it take to get your money? How does their customer services rate? So those are some questions that you might want to be asking, or even looking for, read user reviews. Look for any kind of red flags, because I think sometimes if we're looking, just kind of skimming for the benefits, it's sometimes, you want to be looking at those potential red flags too, because that could save you more headache in the long run. And BECU does have partnership with Clover, so there is always an option that's available to you if that is something that you're interested in pursuing and getting assistance with. So I like to just kind of look at the different items that are important when looking for a merchant service provider, and just giving you some things to think about when you're looking at getting set up. And maybe if you're looking to make a change, because you may be already using a provider, maybe you're not 100% on board with the service that you've been receiving. So those are some things to think about to help you evaluate the best route. In addition to merchant services, another financial services partnership that is very beneficial is payroll services. So think about whether or not, and this may be something that you want to just keep in-house. Some business owners really don't mind running payroll and taking care of that. If you've got the capacity for keeping operations in-house, you like doing it, then that's great. You have that option and that ability. Some business owners find that working with a third-party provider provides just the ability to kind of do hands-off and free up some time and some headache. And so that may be something that you might be interested in as well. And something to keep in mind is that payroll is really more than just writing paychecks, because you have to make sure that you're withholding the right amount of federal taxes, that you're covering FICA requirements, the payments that you need to be sending in for that, as well as any deductions for benefits like health insurance or life insurance or any of the other types of benefits that, if they're contributing to their retirement plans. All of that there's some very strict recording and record keeping that has to happen with payroll. So if you do decide to make sure to do it in-house, look at maybe getting help and at least making sure that you're doing it correctly, because that's not something that you want to find out later, that you've made some big mistakes, because they could be quite costly if you don't take care of it ahead of time. So depending on the size of your business, or maybe because of the size of your business, you may also choose to outsource some of the other services provided. So at Paychecks, for example, who has a partnership with BECU, They offer more than just payroll. So you can get, of course, help with paycheck processing, but also they can cover for additional services like employee benefits administration, and human resources administration. So it's something that you could potentially add on as an additional service and, again, free up your time to not have to worry about those different things. So this is a list of some of the really awesome BECU membership benefits that are out there that you might not be aware of. Although I'm kind of thinking now that those of you who are on this evening, you might be very much in touch with the different benefits that are available. But I'm going to go through these anyway. And the top one right there just happened, the annual member summit. And the annual BECU member summit is annual, it's once a year, expert-led breakout sessions on a lot of different topics. And the different tracks include sessions on investments and retirement planning, business topics, and I believe it's usually in June each year. And one of the great things is if you missed it, you can actually access the sessions on their YouTube channel, which is pretty cool because that way, if you weren't able to be there, you can still access the recordings and watch it, even though it's after the fact. The second one listed, People Helping People Awards. That is an annual member-led program that recognizes and supports great causes in our community. And it's basically supporting local nonprofits. So local nonprofits are awarded up to $50,000. And there's a whole website where you can go and look at the different qualifications and the nomination process. So you can be an active participant in who gets selected. And I was just looking up to see that in 2022, an organization called Raising Girls was the recipient of the Member Volunteer of the Year Award, along with 17 other organizations. So BEC really is looking at putting money back at work in our communities, which is pretty awesome. The free financial health check is another service that's available to BECU members only. And it is a free session with a financial coach. So you can essentially go onto the BECU website, just do a search for free financial health check, and there's some resources there. You get to sign up for a one-on-one session. So if you need help creating a savings plan, or maybe you need help with debt management strategies, you can meet with a specialist that can help you put your thoughts together and get some strategies on paper and help you design a plan. And you can actually sign up for your appointment right online. Financial education and webinar events, just like the one that you're attending today. And we have these opportunities often, always looking at ways that we can educate and provide opportunities to help support the members. And this is one of the ways, is by attending webinars. So you're taking advantage of that this very evening. Passport discounts. Did you know that BECU members receive a complimentary membership to Passport? It's a free perk. And how cool, because you can go into the Passport program. There are there's discounts to restaurants, events. I think it's primarily focused on restaurants, but like dining out. But there are other discounts available to members on that program, which is pretty cool, because you can go in, and who doesn't like to get a discount on something. And also, BECU business members can take advantage of the discount program and actually be a business featured on the Passport platform and reach more members and more people that could be potential customers, which is pretty cool too. So it's a great way to not only get a deal, but also to support local businesses. So that is one of the programs available to BECU members. And then the last one, business advertising opportunities. So on the Passport program, but also, did you know that all of the faces that you see in print or on TV are real BECU members? So they don't hire actors to be in their commercials or in their ads. They feature real business owners and real business BECU members in their ads, which is pretty awesome as well. So with that, to wrap up, I want to take an opportunity to open up for questions and answers. We do have some BECU representatives with us this evening online. So if you have any BECU specific questions, we will do our best to get those questions answered for you. So does anybody have any questions at all about any of the information covered this evening? And don't be shy to ask. If you want to and you feel more comfortable, you can put it in the chat. Yes, Vera, go for it.
You mentioned that you BECU partners with Clover. Is there like, how would I go through to find out like the pricing? I don't know, BECU has special pricing or not, but how would I find out more about that?
Vera, I can answer that. My name's Michelle Beckley, and I am with Business Services with BECU. We do partner with with Fiserv. They use the systems that are called Clover, and they will actually look at your needs directly and see exactly what is important to you and what you need, as well as how you receive cards and take payments. And they will do a pricing particular to your business. We can get you in touch with one of the representatives. They are very good about making sure that they're over the phone, or if you want to meet in person as well. And if you want to put your information in the chat directly to me, I can have someone reach out to them. Or you can always go through our becu.org and put in a request that way, or even phone or go into a branch, whatever works for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to help.
Great question. Anybody else? About anything we covered?
I did see a question pop up really quickly and then it was gone. So I'm not sure, Joanna, if you were able to address it enough, but someone had asked about business lending for auto vehicles. And I didn't even get all the way through the question, but I do want to let you know we do those. You had mentioned about rates and you gave some specifics, but really it comes down to a lot of factors that go into it. So giving you a rate specifically tonight is not something that would make sense to do. But you can either schedule an appointment with one of our business specialists directly through becu.org, or you can call in and they can kind of go over what's needed. I think you'd mentioned it wasn't until 2024 that you were looking for. So obviously rates are going to change and situations, but we can give you a heads up on how to prepare for it for sure.
Yeah, thank you for addressing that, because I did see there is a question. It was very specific, so thank you, Michelle, for bringing that up. Each scenario, when we're talking, especially when we're talking about business loans, remember there's so many factors that are going to be taken into consideration for whether or not you can be approved and for how much. So, but that's a great question, and we're glad that you felt comfortable bringing that up. So, any other questions? I'm so glad that we had more people join us, and I was trying to allow people to come in as I was speaking. So I'm glad you were able to come in. Any other questions for any of us this evening? Or any feedback? Did you find the information helpful? Would you like to see something that we didn't cover? Is there anything that you would have liked to have seen me cover?
I had one other thing I just wanted to
Yeah.
just kind of throw in there. When you were talking about paychecks and you mentioned, that it's important that you make your payroll done correctly and that you make sure to account for the right fees. There's so many things that go into sending payroll. And I mean, I've actually seen members that are charged over $3,000 for one small fee, and that could really hurt a business. I mean, that's a lot of money. So talk to an accountant, talk to other business owners, find out how they're doing it, how they've protected themselves. And definitely, look into a payroll service like Paychecks or any of them that's out there. But definitely look into it and talk to an accountant, talk to your advisors and find out what's the best avenue for you in particular when you're setting it up, because it's so important. Even if you're just a single employee, you got to get it right or it can hurt you.
Great input. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that. So we're going to have, there's going to be a couple more that I'm going to lead, a couple more webinars that I'm going to be leading later in the months ahead. One topic will be on understanding balance sheets, the accounting stuff that's always a lot of fun when we're talking about business and we're talking about profits and losses and understanding how those work. And then also loan preparedness. So I'm appreciating the comments. I'm just taking a look. Thank you, Dana. And to Lisa for your comments. Really appreciate it. And if nobody else has any questions, I'm just going to give one more moment. If anybody has any questions, just some people might be a little shy, or maybe they don't have any questions. So
Quick one.
wonderful. Yes.
Where can we find the replay?
So I believe, and I will maybe have this confirmed by somebody else in the team, but I believe it's going to be put on the YouTube channel, the BECU YouTube channel.
Thank you.
That's correct. Yes.
And so just also in the chat, please realize that for those of you who are joining us this evening, if there are other topics that you would like to learn about, or there's certain things that you would love to hear about from us on different business topics, please share that with us. It'd be very helpful for us to know, because we want to be able to provide relevant content to our business members. So. Well, with that, I'm going to say thank you so much for everyone who participated and joined us this evening. For those of you watching on the recording, thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and hope to see you at the next webinar. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you,
Thank
Joanna.
you.
Thank you, Joanna.